This is Transcast from the METRANS family of centers. I'm Mat Kaplan, back with yet another of the great conversations I had at the 2015 International Urban Freight, or INUF Conference in Long Beach, California. The biannual gathering attracts goods movement researchers and professionals from around the world. The U.S. Department of Transportation and Caltrans were joined as major funders of the conference by the Volvo Research and Educational Foundations, or VREF. This collaboration of 4 foundations is based in Sweden, but has activities that reach around the globe. It sponsors the METROFREIGHT Center of Excellence that is led by METRANS and includes U.S., French, and Korean academic institutions, along with non-academic partners like UPS. VREF's vision in this area is sustainable transport for equitable access in urban areas. The organization's executive director is Henrik Nolmark. As you'll hear in our exclusive conversation, Henrik was impressed by the illuminating research presented and by the diversity of the urban transportation stakeholders who joined him at the conference. Henrik, thank you very much for joining us here at the INUF, first of all, but also on Transcast.
Thank you. I'm really enjoyed being here.
And we're happy to have you, and I hope that you're enjoying the conference.
Very much so. It's a terrific event. I've enjoyed my time. I've been here since Wednesday, and I've been going to a lot of sessions. It's been really enjoyable. The quality is very high. The quality of presentations is very high, and the quality of the arrangement, I must say that already in the beginning, it's a terrific conference. It's very professionally organized, and the atmosphere is very relaxed, knowing that we have so many important people in the field here. It's very relaxed and intimate atmosphere, and I enjoy that very much.
Good. Well, we'll come back to that, but I'm hoping that you can first, as the director of the VREF, tell us a little bit about the foundations, the work that you do.
Yeah, we are a small player in the sense that we are not at all like the big foundations, so we tend to call ourselves a boutique foundation, which means that we have a very focused spectrum of things that we do. We focus on the future of urban transportation, which is our main activity, and with the subtitle, How to Cope with the Complexity of Urban Transportation. The background of the foundations is that there was an endowment by the Volvo Group back in the 1980s, and we work on the capital from that endowment. We are separate from the Volvo commercial side. We are philanthropic. According to Swedish tax law, we are a philanthropic organization, so that means we cannot do anything which is beneficial for any private company, not the least counting the Volvo Group. We support research and educational foundations, but we also work upstream to inspire and initiate research in fields which we feel are important, and perhaps we tend to see ourselves as a bit complementary to the bigger research funding organizations, which means that we try to identify white spots or fields which have been not dominant in the research funding. The Future Urban Transportation Program started in 2001. We decided to go for building capacity in the field where urban planning and urban design meets with transportation systems and transportation planning. So that's where we have been working for 15 years and building capacity through supporting centers of excellence. Over the first 8 or 10 years of the activity, we initiated and have supported 10 centers of excellence, and this is a global exercise. I would like to emphasize that, although we are a Swedish organization, our hometown is Gothenburg in Sweden, but we have been working globally from the very beginning of the program, having open calls for proposals, which has led to the centers of excellence at all continents, actually. So we have besides 4 centers have been run from US and coordinated from US, but with international partners. But we also have centers in China, in India, in Australia, in Africa, and in Latin America and Europe. We don't have a center in Sweden, which sometimes people ask us questions about. So why don't you have a center in Sweden? That just has turned out because the calls are open, so it's a competition, and it has turned out to be so far no center in Sweden.
Interesting. With that kind of international influence and footprint, it's hard for me to think of the VREF as a boutique foundation. It sounds like you're much more influential. It seems like there's a very good match between the mission of the VREF and the kinds of things, obviously, that are being talked about here. I mean, this is the Urban Freight Conference.
Yeah. One of the reasons we went into urban freight, well, let me first say that the centers in the first calls for proposals were open to any suggestions within the broader field of urban transportation. So it was up to the applicants to propose the thematic focus of what they were doing. So that resulted in work on mainly on public transportation, transit and private transportation, transportation policy, sustainable transportation policy, and infrastructure for transportation in general. But there was very, very little on freight and logistics and delivery services. So the board, in a strategic discussion, decided to go for a thematic initiative on urban freight. We do urban things. That's also one of our sort of strategic limitations. To be able to have some impact, we focus on a few things, and the urban environment is one of our important framing limitations. So urban freight, we found that that's a very important area. It affects economy, it affects people's lives in the neighborhoods, but research on urban freight has been not so big in the broader transportation research area, so that's why we thought we could have a role to play. So there was a call for proposals back in, I think, 2011, and out of that came not one center but 2 centers of excellence, and that the reason for that was that the top 2 in the evaluation were so close to getting the highest marks that we have ever seen. So the board took the, in my view, bold decision to fund 2 centers, which was sort of groundbreaking thing in our history to do that, and it has paid off. We say that we don't just support and fund research, we invest in research, so we want something to come out of it, not just paying salaries for researchers, but to get something out for society in general. And it has paid off. I think these 2 centers have been very successful over the 2-3 years that they have been active. So we are very happy with the 2 centers. And we recently initiated, together with 2 universities in Gothenburg, the so-called Urban Freight Platform, which is a 3rd node in the network in the VREF Urban Freight program.
The educational side of what the foundations do, that certainly is also addressed by the centers that you funded that are working on freight issues.
Yes, definitely. And we understand education as something quite broad. It's education and communication activities. So it's not just university education, or it can include training, but it could also include communication, seminars, meeting places, debates, publications, etc. And both the 2 centers have been very clever in incorporating that and integrating that with the research activities. So we are happy about that, and we'd like to see even more of that in the years to come.
Bringing it back to the conference, one of the things that has been spoken of regarding this conference, I think at every session that has taken place, is that the bringing together of both the academics who are conducting the research and the industry representatives apparently is not that prevalent. I mean, is that your experience? Is this unique, or do you see this kind of coming together elsewhere around the world?
Well, it's not unique, but it's not very common either. I mean, we have seen a few other meeting places with a similar mix, but it's difficult for us working in research. It's always difficult for us to attract industry and public administration leaders to come. They are very busy. They have their own agendas. They need to be in their everyday work. So it's generally not part of their everyday life to go to conferences like this. So we are very happy that they could spend some time with us. This is said from a research, almost academic research perspective. The way it's done here, with the keynote speakers and the luncheon speakers from industry or policy.
Yes.
I think that's a good format to do it. It also gives a lot of space to the researchers in breakout sessions, so they have their presentations and sometimes a bit more going deeper into methodology and data sharing issues and such. So it's a good combination, I think.
Do you think all three of these sectors benefit from this kind of coming together at one place and interacting this way?
I hope so. But basically, that's my view is that when people come together from different backgrounds and different types of expertise and knowledge, this is where things happen. This is where innovation takes place and innovative thinking takes place. Is where you meet. You don't have only the yes sayers around. You have also the opponents around, and that's where the interesting dynamic comes around. So I think it should be useful for everybody.
What I have also seen in past conferences is an increased level of trust among these sectors, who perhaps are sometimes, at least between industry and regulators, policymakers, but probably also to a degree between industry and academics. There's a certain level of suspicion sometimes, or a feeling that those academics, those researchers, they're just so out of touch.
I've seen that a lot over the. I've been involved in research management for the last 25 years, and I've seen that a lot. Of course, I would even use the word suspicion, and that goes in all directions. I'm kind of a newcomer in the field of freight. I've only been here for 3-4 years. I've been mainly working on urban planning and public transport type of issues before. So what I've seen in the field of freight, there seemed to be a bit more trust between the different sectors, and that's
really,
I think so. Of course, everybody has their own ambitions and agendas, but it's that's. I was saying earlier something about the atmosphere. The atmosphere is very friendly, and I think that helps the intellectual discussions as well. It's very open-minded in the discussions.
Just to wrap up, because you've been very generous with your time. We've already taken more than I told you I thought we would need. Where are the foundations going in the future? More of what you are currently facilitating, or are there new directions?
Well, our new big initiative will be focusing geographically on Africa, on sub-Saharan Africa. That will be on mobility and access. So it's on person mobility. It might also include mobility of goods. It's in the startup phase, so we are preparing a program for at least 5-year initiative on mobility and access in African cities. That's sub-Saharan African cities, just for a practical limitation of the program. We start with the sub-Saharan African cities. Yeah, that's very, very exciting to be part of. So that's our next step. But then we haven't made plans beyond that. So we will continue the initiative on urban freight. I'm pretty sure that will be a long-term commitment from our side.
Very impressive. And I'm also very grateful that you were able to take a few minutes to join us here on Transcast. Also, I think I can say on behalf of everyone here, thank you for, on behalf of the foundations, for helping to make this ongoing effort possible, these conferences that take place every 2 years.
No, it's our pleasure, and we depend heavily on the people organizing these types of events and doing the research. Without our networks, we would be nothing. So that's our philosophy, that we are supporting, but we really like to put up front the people doing the work. Can I say something just on the side
Please.
About this conference? 2 things which are very important. First, it's a perfect occasion for all the researchers involved in the 2 centers and the platform in Gothenburg to meet, to make presentations. I noticed there are roughly 60 presentations in the program from this network. So for us, it's very important to see that this is happening. Secondly, on a more personal basis, in my job as director of ERF, it's very important to meet the leaders of the centers and the core networks and the researchers and the PhD students, and I get the opportunity at the INUF to meet all of them. So I've had a number of side meetings, very busy days, but that saves me a lot of travel
and a lot of environmental impact.
Yes, so it's a platform for doing my work as well, and also because I'm still on a learning curve in urban freight. So it's very important for me to be able to listen to the presentations, both from industry and from policy and research. So thanks to the organizers of the event for providing that.
And on their behalf, you're very welcome. I am glad that this has worked out so well for you so far, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of the conference and your stay in Southern California. Thanks again. Thank
you. I'm going to the port tour, and that's very important. That's very good. I rarely get the opportunity to see ports from the inside, so that's going to be great.
There is nothing like it. It is so fascinating. And I am Southern California born and raised. I tell people all the time, until you go into the port, you may drive past it every day. You have no idea the depth of complexity that is sitting right on our shoreline, our neighbor here in Southern California. True, of course, around the world.
Yeah. I agree.
Thanks again. Enjoy the tour.
Thank you very much.
You've been listening to Transcast with our guest, Henrik Nolmark, Executive Director of VREF, the Volvo Research and Educational Foundations. We talked at the 2015 INUF Conference in Long Beach, California. Transcast is a production of the METRANS family of centers, funded by agencies and organizations including the U.S. Department of Transportation and the California Department of Transportation, Caltrans. Visit us at metrans.org to learn how our research and services can benefit your efforts. I'm Mat Kaplan. Thanks for listening to Transcast.